Thanks. Like, hey, Scoob, did you hear Nikki Blake is hosting a Scooby-Doo panel? No. Yeah. Like on today's Scooby-Doo episode, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meet Nikki Blake. Yeah, and a Scooby Panel. Like, we need to get this puppy started. Okay, Nikki Blake, take it away, Scooby-Doo.
Welcome to the Scooby Panel. I'm Nikki Blake, your host from ScoobyAddicts.com, and today we'll be talking about the episode title cards. Before we begin, I'd like to have everyone introduce themselves. So Wendy, let's start with you.
Hi everybody, I'm Wendy BRYDGE. I'm a commissioned artist, a blogger, and a 30-plus year Scooby-Doo collector.
Will?
Hi, I'm Will Davenport. I am an artist. You can find my work at Davenport Will Draw.
Cameron?
Hey everyone, my name is Cameron. I run Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too. I'm one of the co-hosts here on the panels. I'm a Scooby-Doo collector and a longtime fan, so thank you for having me.
And Sophie?
Hello, my name's Sophie. I run the Scooby-Doo for Life page on Instagram. I'm an artist, collector, and lover of all things Scooby-Doo.
Nice. Good to have you all here. So we're going to get started first with the series that don't have title cards, because I feel like that's just going to be very quick and easy, and everything else might take a while. So the series that don't have title cards are Laugh Olympics, What's New Scooby-Doo Seasons 2 and 3, and Get a Clue. Any thoughts on those series not having title cards, and possibly your reason as to why you think they didn't have title cards? Wendy, we'll start with you.
I really think, especially given how the Scooby-Doo show was treated, where in season 1 there's nothing, but then for pretty much the rest of it they have these beautiful title cards, I think it was a cost-saving measure. I think that they were going along, and you figure anytime, especially back then, they're probably hand painting the lettering for all the episode title cards, you know, like, yes, maybe they can reuse the background, but they're definitely having to pay someone to do that labor to make each one of them. And I feel like when you're running a big operation, saving whatever you can is probably a good thing. But I suspect that maybe they potentially got some blowback, that they went from having series that had these amazing episode title cards to all of a sudden there isn't one. And you figure this is pre-internet, so if you wanted to know the name of the episode, I mean, it's not like they play it in the end credits. If you don't have that episode title card at the beginning, you don't know what it's called. You know, maybe I really don't know how many people had like a TV guide back in the 70s and stuff. I suppose that they would maybe have put the episode names in the TV guide, but that's not a guarantee. Sometimes it's just the name of the show and it indicates whether it's new or not. So I think that they likely had people saying like, hey, why have you changed your format? And maybe that's why they went ahead and implemented it for season 2 and season 3, but they didn't have it in season 1. As far as like the modern iterations that don't have it, I'm just not sure that they cared. I think that they definitely were taking into consideration how people have changed over time. And I think there has definitely been a trend to get away from the more fancy intros and things like that, that a lot of people are kind of this mindset of like, well, let's just get into it. Let's just get into the show. We know who's in it. We don't need, you know, who cares about the episodes? People can look it up online today, whatever. So I suspect that it's just a lack of like, who cares? Who needs them anymore? It's modern day now. We can do something different. I think that's why some of the newer series have moved away from that, is that it's something that they think is old and unnecessary, you know? And I think that's a shame, because to me, both the show title cards and the episode title cards are kind of sometimes the best part of the show. The artwork is fantastic. You can tell, especially in those Scooby-Doo ones, like they didn't just throw it together. like someone was thinking about how to design it, how to make it something that would make the viewer excited. I mean, that's kind of how the one thing that I think of when I think of the episode title cards from any of the Scooby series is being a kid, and in some instances being a really young kid where maybe I wasn't even old enough to necessarily be able to read what the titles were, but I recognized which title card went to which series. And even as a kid, I had favorite series. So when I would see, you know, the mansion and then Scrappy pulling Scooby and Shaggy, you know, pulling Scooby by the tail, like that was what made me super excited, because I was like, it's a Scrappy episode. And I was the kid that loved the Scrappy episodes. So I think it's a shame that any of the series for Scooby-Doo didn't think that it was worth continuing with that. Just putting the episode name in the credits, it's better than nothing, but it's kind of a cop-out. I don't really like that. I want to see them like put in the effort. Kids, adults, we all appreciate some really nice artwork, and that you did something to make it stand out. And let's be honest, almost all of the Scooby series, like they are meant to be viewed separately, the episodes. You don't have to go in order. And if you don't have to go in order, that means that you're probably going to want to rewatch your favorites. You kind of need to know what the title is so that you can find your favorite. So I wish that they all had them, but I think in the earlier, with that Scooby-Doo show stuff, I think it was a cost-saving thing that they realized they needed to go back to what they were doing. But in modern times, I think they don't care. They don't think it's important anymore.
Sophie, what are your thoughts on the series that don't have title cards and your reasons why you think maybe they don't have them?
I totally agree with Wendy. I mean, back in the olden days, more, you know, the money and was all focused based on the content they were creating, so therefore they'd have to skip in the title card. They didn't have the money to do that. Nowadays in the modern times, I don't know why, at least they do put the title like on the screen. You know, it's better than having to go and try and find it on the guide or whatever. I like it on the episode, but yeah, I think title cards are quite special, you know, at least, you know, it establishes them, but yeah, when they're not on it, yeah, just cost effective.
Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Wendy said too. I think in the old days, it probably was cost saving. I think for the newer, more modern series, I think it was a stylistic choice. Like, and I don't necessarily think it was cost savings at that point. I think it was, there's a period where in television in general, not just in animation, getting away from having credits in the beginning created a sense of realism. Like you get into the show faster if you just open up with beautiful photography and don't necessarily interrupt it. And for a more modern audience, you don't need the additional initial context of a title or who made, like, you know what you're going to watch before you're watching it. And so that's something that happened in cinema, it happened in television over a period of time. And so I think it was probably a stylistic choice, but I agree that I love the title cards. I think, and I'm glad to see that some of the later series brought them back in.
Cameron, how about you? What are your thoughts on the series that don't have title cards and why you think maybe they didn't add them?
Well, I think everybody said it, but I agree with Wendy as well. And the reason I agree with Wendy, and I'm saying this as I'm comparing, you think about Scooby-Doo and Hanna-Barbera, but then you also compare it to Looney Tunes. Think about it. When you turn on an episode of Looney Tunes, you got that style art right there. And you think about it, every Looney Tunes episode you've ever watched has that style art right there. But I think it's because, and the reason I bring up Looney Tunes is because, you know, Looney Tunes is much shorter episodes than what Scooby-Doo are. A lot more effort has been gone into Scooby-Doo cartoons. And I'm not saying there's not been any effort or it's gone into the Looney Tune ones. I'm just saying you compare them and Looney Tune ones run so much shorter. So I feel like they were actually able to put those title cards and, you know, and the money that has gone into the title for the beginning versus where Scooby-Doo, you know, where it runs on 30 minutes, you know what I mean? And we know that some of the older ones like Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And the Scooby-Doo show, you know, they are, you know, they were back in the 70s, you know, and back then, you know, budgets were tighter in Hollywood, and, you know, things were, you know, you watch an old Scooby-Doo episode, sometimes the artwork, you know, is just a little misplaced. You know, Daphne may be standing there and her hair may be darker than, you know, what it's supposed to be, or, you know, something must be off point. So sometimes back then, you know, they didn't have the budget, and sometimes things were messed up. And so I understand that. As far as, you know, as far as going into the future a little bit, kind of going towards more like Be Cool Scooby-Doo and, you know, or, you know, what's new Scooby-Doo and, you know, things like that. Like, I feel like what kind of what Will said, you know, it's kind of their kind of stylistic choice on kind of what they want. It's a shame though, because like I said, I feel like every Scooby-Doo episode should be like Looney Tunes and have a title card, because you think about back to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? You know, Get a Clue Scooby-Doo with Captain Cutler. You look at the title card, it kind of just, it's without saying any words, it kind of tells you what the episode's going to be about. Y'all know what I mean? So when you look at it, it's like, okay, I know it's okay. There's going to be a mystery by the ocean. There's going to be this guy in this, you know, this green, you know, diver suit, and he's probably the monster, you know, so it's kind of setting up kind of like what the episode's going to be. And I appreciate that. Like I said, Scooby-Doo show is my favorite series. And so, you know, was I kind of a little bit disappointed on how they just kind of reused those scenes where it's just the gang running up the side of the hill, you know what I mean, in Scooby's and Shaggy's arms. I mean, I love that scene. I love that art, but I hate how it's just always used over and over again. So it would be nice to, you know, to see something in the old, because like I said, I'm a sucker for old Scooby-Doo, or excuse me, older Scooby-Doo episodes. But yeah, that's kind of where I think that's how it fell along the lines of how they chose their title cards.
So I'm thinking that one of the reasons that they cut out title cards was to make room for advertising, because you know, now they've cut episodes shorter than they used to be to make room for the commercials and ads. I did ask some people that were involved in the shows why they either didn't use title cards or they decided to just put text over the screen and not like make an actual card. And John Coltonberry is the only one that responded to me. And he said, I wasn't really involved in that choice, but my guess would be to allow for the episodes to start and begin the storytelling as the episode title and credits popped in and out in an unobtrusive manner. So it makes sense. It definitely makes sense, you know, especially in this age, like everyone wants everything right now. You know, we want everything immediately. So if the show starts right away, you know, especially with Be Cool, there's really no theme song. It's just a very quick intro and then the show starts. And it seems like they're kind of catering to those of us that no longer have any patience. So we're going to move on to the shows that do have actual title cards. So these are the shows that have, you know, the real title card, not just the text over the screen. And I have a bunch of things that I printed today. So the first one is Where Are You? And as you can see with Where Are You, this title card, like Hassle in the Castle, is the one that they typically use. But then you have What a Night for a Night, which is different. And you have A Clue for Scooby-Doo, which is different. The other thing that they kind of changed was like some of the text, the way that they put the episode title, but for the most part, it was the gang running across the screen. And then we have the new Scooby-Doo movies, where they were pretty much all blue, except for the Josie and the Pussycats and the Genie and Babu episodes. They were red. And then, if you notice, they reused Don Knotts, Batman, the Three Stooges, and the Globetrotters. And none of these actually have the title of the episode. They just have the guest star. Which in a way, I guess, makes sense too, because they kind of named them Scooby-Doo meets, you know, Josie and the Pussycats, even though some of the episodes have actual titles. So then we go on to the Scooby-Doo show. And if you notice, the last 4 episodes of the Scooby-Doo show do not have the gang running across the bottom of the screen. And then we have Scrappy. So these were pretty much all the same, but you will notice that in the background, sorry, the ones on this side, they don't have the silhouettes of the gang in the background. And then we have Yaba. And those title cards were all pretty much the same. 13 Ghosts, which were all pretty much the same, just different title. A pup named Scooby-Doo, where the first episode, A Bicycle Built for Boo, was different. And the last episode, The Wrath of Waitrose, was different. That had Commander Cool and Mellow Mutt. And then the shape of this background thing in season 2 got bigger than it was for the season 1 title cards. Technically, Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. had title cards, but it was just the chapter and the episode name with this green hazy thing in the back. And then we get to Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. There's some slight differences with season 1. Season 1 had the green light and yellow text, and season 2 had the yellow light, the purple text, and they also added this door, like this closed off doorway behind the guest stars. The only title cards in what's new are for the specials. So that is all of the series that have actual title cards. Cameron, what are your thoughts on the title cards?
Like, I think the title cards are just so much fun. You know, like I said, my favorite ones have to be the older ones. And yeah, I love the pup named Scooby-Doo ones too. The one where it shows, you know, Shaggy and Scooby as Commander Cool and Mellow Mutt. Like that, those are just so stinking cool. And that's like one of my favorite series. Like I said, I think the title card, you know, and I've said this before and people have heard me, but you know, I feel like sometimes the artists don't get appreciated. And, you know, I feel like people who do art and, you know, and we've got Wendy, Will, and Sophie on this panel today. And, you know, they know that when y'all work on art, you put so much effort into it. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm personally not an artist. I mean, me and Nikki, we just go buy Scooby-Doo stuff and know lots of knowledge. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I met a couple Scooby artists here and there at some Comic-Cons I went to. If y'all follow me on some Comic-Cons I went to, y'all know that, you know that I have met some of the artists. And the one thing they tell me all the time is, you know, that, you know, sometimes they feel like they're overworked and not paid as much. And I hate hearing that, I do. But they say they do it because they love it and they're passionate about it. So when I see those title cards, people just say, oh, it's a title card, and they go on. But sometimes I'll pause it when I'm watching the episode because I love to see the detail that goes into these title cards. You know what I mean? Because it's cool because it actually, to me, it's like it almost tells the story. It's like it sets up the story. And I always, you know, when you think about when you read a comic strip, you know how you always kind of, there's like the little kind of intro of the comic and you kind of sets it up a little bit. Well, to me, that's kind of the title cards. And like I said, I love all the art that has gone into Scooby-Doo. I cannot complain, to be honest with y'all, about any art that has gone to Scooby-Doo because I feel like they have been so creative. They have been so pure, so clean with it. I mean, the colors, how vibrant it is. And you know, to me, you know, kind of going back, I think if I'm going to have to pick my favorite title card, I think it would be What a Night for a Night, because that one was just so cool. I mean, the colors that went into it, and, you know, you actually see the Black Knight, the full armor, and then Scooby and Shaggy poking their heads out. I mean, that's really neat, y'all. And, you know, to me, it's, you know, that was the very first episode. And I'm so glad they actually put a title card on it because it kind of set up for title cards going forward. You know, like, how are we going to make title cards different? And I'll be honest with you, was there some series that they kind of lacked on the title cards? Yeah, there was. I'm not going to say which ones because I don't want somebody listening on here and be like, hey, I worked on that show. But for some other, you know, shows, I mean, they absolutely put a lot of effort into the title cards. And I love that. I love also too on the What's New episodes. I mean, I will say I think it's pretty cool they just did the title cards on the specials. You know, the Valentine's one, the Halloween one, the Christmas one. You know, I think that's neat because when you watch, you're like, okay, these title cards mean it's going to be a special episode. Then you're okay, let's go ahead and watch. You know, you think about it too. I know we're talking about episodes, but y'all, if you stop and think about the movies, let's switch over to the movies for just a second. I love the title cards in the movies because it is, to me, they are just so cool. I mean, you think about Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and you think about Scooby-Doo in the Cyber Chase, or I'm trying to think of some other ones I absolutely love. Scooby-Doo in the Ghoul School. You know, I mean, they play with the fonts, and that's another thing. I mean, if y'all follow me on my social media page, every time I put at Scooby and Cam across my photo, I always love to play with the fonts, whether it be, you know, fonts for Halloween or fonts for Christmas. So it's cool to see how they do that in the movies. And like I said, no disrespect to the series, but I love all the title cards in the movies. And if you stop and just go back and watch all the movies and just pause or go on Google and type up Scooby-Doo titles for the movies, it's really neat. You know what I mean?
Or you could just watch the video that I made for the 52nd anniversary.
Yeah.
All
I was about to say, you put
all
all
the
of them
movie
on
titles
there.
are in there.
I think one of my favorite ones, and I know this is not a popular movie in the franchise, but the Curse of the 13th Ghost. I will say I love the intro and the title card for the you know, because it kind of showed the red van and you know, Daphne, Flim Flam, Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy, how they were going around, and it was you know it was, to me, it was cool. Then it showed, you know, the chest of demons, and then like the lightning struck, and then actually showed the title. And to me, that's a lot of artistic work going into what setting up the movie. You know what I mean? And y'all all know that when we make a post, or we do something artistic, or we write something for Scooby-Doo, and you know what I'm talking about, for the Scooby community, we always make sure that before we tell a story or before we show an art project, we always show that kind of that sneak peek, that title card. And so, you know, sometimes people think, oh, a title card is just, you know, just an art, you know, piece thrown on with. No, it doesn't have to be. It can be a sneak peek for a post. It could be a sneak peek for an art project. So I think it's cool that, you know, the background art for Scooby-Doo, title cards for Scooby-Doo, all this art is well known. And I mean, I'll be honest with y'all, it's in some museums. It's on sales. It's put around. It's popular on social media. I mean, people know Scooby-Doo art because it stands out. So I absolutely love the title cards. I will say, whatever new Scooby-Doo series or movies we get in the future, I hope to see more artistic style cards. You know what I mean? And I hope that they don't just do the same ones over and over again. I hope they switch it up and, you know, do different styles and formats. One thing I like to think of, like I said, I mentioned Looney Tunes, but also too, if anybody was listening, like Pokemon. Y'all think about Pokemon for a second. You watch the older ones, and they always had different title cards. They always had different, you know what I mean? And that was always cool to think of because it was just so much artistic, you know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was just so much effort put into those. And to me, it was just, it's like it just tells a story all in one. So it's really cool. And like I said, going forward in the future, I hope they do more title cards.
Sophie, what are your thoughts on the title cards?
I do like all the title cards. It's, you know, not, if you think of all the other series apart from Where Are You, you know, because all those sort of series that have the same sort of running theme throughout. Yes, you know, the image is brilliant, though it is repetitive, though on the plus side, it's easily recognizable. You know exactly what series you're watching, and you know, that's one of the pros to it. I know the first two episodes, like they had Captain Cutler and Black Knight, you know, the title card there showed what this episode was going to be about, basically, whereas like the more generic ones, it doesn't give anything away. So in that respect, you know, probably my favorite is like for the best title card, the best would probably be Guess Who and the new Scooby-Doo movies, only because it keeps that genericness, you know what series it's going to be, yet it has a personal touch to it where it has the guest stars, so you know what's involved in it. So Yeah, all the title cards are good, but they do vary quite a lot. And, you know, whether it would be a personal tribute to the actual episode or just a generic, you know, rounding the series off.
Will, what are your thoughts on the title cards?
Yeah, thanks. So I was thinking about this from a historical perspective in preparation for today. So title cards, the default was actually title cards. Title cards started like with silent films, and the way that film was originally shown was often in movie theaters as much as anything else, where title cards were sort of essential. And in silent movies, it was very important to have that kind of context. So they actually lasted through filmed media for a long time. So the real change was when they did start to get rid of them. But one of the things I was thinking about, especially with the original ones, The Black Knight and Cutler, and I've read a little bit about this period, and I think the reason why those first few episodes have such beautiful art is the artists were just off of doing all the concept art. They were doing all these beautiful painted works. They were trying to figure out what the characters were going to look like, and they were also trying to sell the show to the network. So I think a lot of that stuff was done as part of like sales pitches. But you can tell that as soon as they had to get into creating a high volume of the series, they just settled for that one, the one for the rest of the series that's a little more generic and very muddy. Actually, that generic one that's got like random colors, and it's actually not my favorite one, but the early ones are great. But the other thing to think about was how important that kind of artwork was, especially in the 50s and 60s and 70s, because the title cards are very similar to movie posters and then also like comic book covers. And for a long time, part of the reason why those were so important, especially with kids media, is that the title card or the poster or the cover was actually more exciting than anything that was in the original story, right? So the artwork on the Black Knight and Cutler, like Cutler never looks as dynamic in the entire show. Like Cutler is actually pretty tamed looking, like he barely moves. So there's actually more excitement built up in that single image than in the entire media. So it gives you that you come into it being pumped up, and it almost doesn't even have to look that good because you already have this vivid image of what the bad guy is. So I really like that. I think it would have been amazing if they could have done more of that, but I understand why they didn't. So that's the thing I've been thinking about the most.
Yeah, I agree that I would have liked to have seen them put the villain and either Scooby and Shaggy or the gang in all the title cards. But I'm sure to make that many different title cards would have also taken away time from what they needed to do in the show. And the other thing that I forgot to mention was they used the same background for the title cards for the Scooby-Doo show as they used for the Scrappy series. The only difference was the Scooby-Doo show had the gang running, and Scrappy just had Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy. Wendy, what are your thoughts on the title cards?
Yeah, I love the title cards. Like I say, I think that's maybe almost my favorite part of all of the Scooby-Doo series. I definitely think if I was going to pick a favorite, I would go with those first two for Clue for Scooby-Doo and What a Night for a Night. And I was wondering, I think Will completely nailed it on the head that, I mean, it's the first two episodes. They're trying to sell the show. I'm sure that they put a ton of work and time into all kinds of wonderful promotional things, including those first two title cards. And I do think it was likely a cost and a time thing that made them not keep going with it. I did kind of wonder if perhaps after the first two were seen, if they maybe wondered that they were giving too much away at the beginning of the episode. But I'm thinking that's maybe not likely, because I think in almost, correct me if I'm wrong, but in nearly every episode of at least season one, we're pretty much introduced to the villain like immediately. Mm-hmm. We often see the villain even before, like not always, but we often see the villain even before we see Scooby and the gang. Mm-hmm. It's, Hassle in the Castle especially, and there's the island and there's all the fog, and then it pans up and there's the ghost in the window. The ghost is the first thing you see. So if he had been in the title card literally 5 seconds earlier, you're not really giving much away. So I had wondered about that, but it wouldn't really make sense, because even once they get into the Scooby-Doo show, there are a lot of times where you're introduced to the villain before you're introduced to anything else. I think apart from those first two, which are obviously something very special, I do think that my absolute favorite line of title cards would be for season 2 of the Scooby-Doo show, which season 2 and season 3, technically they're the same, but they've re-illustrated it. And I personally think that the first illustration they did for season 2, the mansion looks a little spookier to me. I think that I do like the brighter color palette that they used for season 3 when they redrew it. It's a little bit deeper and it's a little bit brighter, but the illustration itself from season 2 is like, it's my favorite one. I was glad to see that they like, I don't mind, because I do like things that are repetitive, and I like things that have like an order to them. So it doesn't bother me that they then reused, for the most part, the same title card for Scooby-Doo and Scrappy, because they changed it a little bit. You know, they're not running anymore. And like you said, for season 1 of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy, you can see the gang in the background running away, which I think was meant to indicate that a lot of those episodes did still retain the whole gang, just with the addition of Scrappy. But then when you moved into season 2, where there is nothing to do with the gang, it's just those little shorts that have the 3 of them, they just took the gang right out of the title card, which again was something that I, as a very young child, absolutely noticed. I noticed that. I knew when there was going to be the gang with Scrappy or when it was just going to be the 3 of them. Definitely something that I paid very, very close attention to, because even though I do love those little shorts with Scrappy, I obviously it's better when it's the whole gang, like the season 1, like episode 2, Night Ghoul of Wonder World, is my top 3 Scooby-Doo episodes. Like, I absolutely love it. So to get Scrappy and the whole gang, like that's obviously what I really like. I do really also appreciate the Yabba-Doo and Scrappy title card. I don't know why, but I just like, they, again, a testament to the artists who are tasked with, I mean, we'll mention this too, like about movie posters and things like that. Technically, what is the title card's purpose, whether it's for the show or for the episode? It's kind of like the cover on a book. People say, you know, that saying, don't judge a book by its cover. But I don't really ascribe to that, because the whole point of a book cover is for you to prejudge the book and see if you want to read it or not. And honestly, if you show me a book that has a terrible cover, I don't really care how good the book actually is. If you can't take the time to make a good cover for your amazing story, then I don't really want to read it. Maybe that's not a good way to be, but I have to admit, you know, I have read plenty of terrible books that had amazing covers, and honestly, it didn't matter how bad the story was. If the cover was good, I enjoyed the book. I'm a visual person. It doesn't bother me. I would rather have like a really nice cover and a mediocre or a terrible story. I mean, I love any kind of B horror movie, and they're pretty bad, but visually there's a lot of stunning things going on. Stunning in quotation marks, take that however you want. But yeah, and I really like the 13 Ghosts title card. However, I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity to have just Scooby. I think it is nice when you get everybody that's going to be in the episode, whether they're small or they're big. I really think that would have been a much nicer title card design if they could have worked in Daphne, even Flim Flam and Scrappy and Mr. Van Gool. I think that would have been just a way to kick it up a notch. Like, I love it the way it is, because that's a super cool design with Scooby and the chest and all of the green fog and everything like that. But I think that was a missed opportunity where they could have just taken it over the top and made it just amazing. The new Scooby-Doo movies is not my favorite series. I'm not crazy about that series, but I appreciate the design that went into the title cards for that, because they're very unique within the Scooby-Doo series. Like, they did do something to set it apart, and it makes sense. It works for it. Like, it's a really neat design. But like, is there a bad one? I don't think so. Like Will said, the colors in some of those early ones are a bit like, it was an odd choice for a background on a title card. I do enjoy when they change up the font. Today I was watching A Tiki Scare Is No Fair, and it also has like the altered lettering. So it has like that kind of Hawaiian grass hut look to it. I wish that they would have done that. If you're not going to, you know, change up the background the way that they did with the first 2 episodes, then I think they could have gotten away with just making the font something special that reflected the episode, but for all of them. And I think that that would have been absolutely amazing. I have to admit, I was looking at those first 2 a lot this week, and I very much want to now design proper title cards for the rest of the episodes in that series. Like, I just picturing the villain with the writing now is just like, that's something that probably will not get done, but in my mind, I want to do it. If somebody else does it, tag me. I want to see it. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the title cards. I love them all. I really do.
I love the title cards because for me, like just like songs, I can never remember the name of a song. I could sing every lyric of the song, but I can never remember the name of it. So, you know, for me with the episodes, the title cards are great. And like Sophie said, I kind of like the repetitive design that they use because, you know, when I'm watching Scooby, I know that I'm watching Scooby-Doo Where Are You based on the title cards. You know, I know what series it is, and for me, that just works. But Wendy, like you said, it would have been nice for them to do the lettering because they picked and chose a few episodes to do different lettering with. And I was wondering when I was going through all the title cards, like why they decided on just those, but not all of them. You know, what was special about those that they said, oh, let's do some creative lettering for this title.
Right.
So, and Wendy, with you with book covers, I'm like that with like band names. If I don't like a band name, I will not listen to the band, no matter how good they are. I will not listen to them. If you have a stupid name, I will not listen.
Don't blame you.
We're gonna move on to the series that just show the episode name over the actual episode as it starts. And so that would be What's New Season 1. And that was just the first 14 episodes. And then the other series, Be Cool Scooby-Doo. Now what's crazy about Be Cool Scooby-Doo is that in about 20 of these title cards, you see the mystery machine driving down the road. So I thought that was kind of funny that a lot of them were just mystery machine. And that's not counting the ones where they're in the mystery machine and you can tell that they're driving, but you don't actually see them driving down the road. That's just ones where the mystery machine is just driving down the road.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on them just putting the episode title on the screen over the episode itself as it starts? And Will, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't have strong feelings about it. I think when I think about Be Cool, there's it's such a dialogue heavy show. And my guess is, even though you're only seeing a picture of the mystery machine or they're driving, they're probably already saying funny lines, or like there's already stuff going on. And it seems to me like with that show, they just want to maximize, you know, they want to get in every line and every part of the story that they can. I don't necessarily love it. Like, you're not asking about this, but by comparison, like I think the Mystery Incorporated, which is almost that, right? Because it's barely a title card. It's almost like that's going to fade right into the thing. Like I feel like that works better in sort of a dramatic way. So I'm kind of lukewarm on it, I guess is my answer.
Wendy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily hate it because it is certainly better than shows where they don't put anything regarding the episode and you just have no clue. You know, you have to go online and try and figure it out for yourself, which I just feel like is a wasted opportunity. You know, you put all this time, effort, and money into your show and you don't even want people to appreciate what you've named the episodes, because some shows, like, they put effort into making like a clever title. Scooby episodes especially, you know, there's a pun or a play on words or some kind of cool alliteration, and like that takes work. Not everybody can do that, you know. That is kind of a skill that people, either they have it or they don't. They have a, you know, but it's better than nothing. But I agree, even with Mystery Incorporated, where it's barely a title card, but it is still something that is, there it is. There is the screen, there is the writing, and then we get into the show. I think that's preferable than just the title. Because I'll be honest, I am definitely someone that is guilty of doing other things while I'm watching TV, even if it's something that I'm very much interested in. You know, maybe I'm on my computer, maybe I'm doing a Sudoku puzzle. I mean, there's any umpteen things that could be taking part of my attention away. And I feel like the one time that I am most likely to not notice what is happening on the screen is that beginning after the intro, you know, the theme song, whatever, and when the show formally starts, like there's action or someone's talking. So that little in between where they almost always play the episode title, I hardly ever see it. I couldn't even tell you most shows that even have that, because I'm usually not looking at the TV during that time period. So I think that they would actually, it might even be preferable to put it at the end as part of like an end title card for somebody like me anyway. I think I would be more likely to see it. But at least when there is a proper title card, you're getting like 4 or 5 seconds of there it is on the screen. I think you are much more likely, even if you're distracted, to notice that there is something stationary that's not moving, and you're going to look up and you're going to see it, and you can appreciate what the episode title is. So anything is better than nothing, but it's a waste. It's a waste to just have the name.
Sophie, what are your thoughts on them just putting the name over the episode?
I never really thought about it, but I think I'm with Wendy. When I'm watching it, obviously I'm doing art or something whilst watching it. I was just going to say, I love the title card, don't get me wrong, but if I'm watching like What's New Scooby-Doo, I don't really think about, oh, there's no title card. Yet when I'm watching like Where Are You, I'm like, oh, there's a title card. That's fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do like the title card, but I don't think I do miss them when I'm watching What's New Scooby-Doo. I mean, like the Christmas episode, the Halloween and the Valentine's Day, they've got like, you know, this logo and a title card for that. That's quite cool for like special edition. But yeah, I just at least got the title on. I'm like, if I have to go and find it on Guide, no, I'm lost. I just need it right there and there just to know what episode it is. But yeah.
Cameron, what are your thoughts on them just putting the title over the episode?
I think everybody said a lot of good things. You know, I was actually just thinking about it. You know, I like movement in title cards, and honestly, I can't think of any series that has had movement except for Where Are You, where the gang is actually running across the screen. I'm not saying on all episodes of the title cards, but like the gang's running across the screen and it shows the title. And to me, that's pretty stinking cool, because you actually see a little bit of motion in the title card. I like that with like when they show the name and it shows like the episode starting. I do like the motion in there, because I feel like with kids or with somebody who's really visual, when you got motion, it really catches your attention. You know what I mean? Versus just a still title card. Now, don't be wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about the title cards that are not movement. You know, they mean they're just the art of it. I love them. But I think it's cool how they kind of show like I said, the title, and then it goes away. Am I crazy about it? To be honest with you, no. I'd rather prefer a title card, you know, actually showing some art in there, you know, and you know, I one thing is Sophie brought up a really good point earlier. You know, I like how she said about the new Scooby-Doo movies, how yet it's generic, but yet it shows new guests and, you know, who's going to be appearing. So it's kind of like it's balancing out a little bit. You know what I mean? It's showing the balance of having that generic, but also yet showing something new and fresh. I feel like if you can do that, that really captures somebody's attention. Yeah, like I said, I'm not crazy about them just putting the title on. I wish they would have put a little bit more effort into it, but you know, like I said, I'm not crazy like hating against it though.
I don't mind it, I think, because it's showing the title, but I definitely prefer the title cards. I think that the amount of because like Wendy, I'm a visual person. I like to see things, and the amount of just art that goes into making these title cards, it's incredible. And I guess I just really want to see that. So Wendy, if you do ever remake the title cards, that would be amazing. I will share every single one of them.
It's going on
yeah.
the list.
You could do that for next Scoobtober, because that'll give you a
Definitely.
year to do them.
There you go.
There you go.
Or I'll just do it. I'll recreate them and they'll all look like stick figures and everyone will be like, what is this?
Trust me, you're not in the boat alone, Nikki.
So we can all pretty much agree that the first two title cards of Scooby-Doo Where Are You are the best title cards, right?
Agreed.
What a Night for a Night and a Clue for Scooby-Doo.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have any other title cards that they feel are like kind of stand out? Sophie, how about you?
The first two, yeah, are brilliant. I mean, the artwork's incredible, though. I think for the role of the title card, I think the new Scooby-Doo movies and Guess Who do it the best. You know, the generic, yet it's personal to the episode. So I think they're not my favourite title card, but I think they're the best of what their role is to do for the title card.
Well,
Yeah, I agree with Wendy. Wendy, your favorite's my favorite. It's all about the mansion. The one with the mansion, and I never really noticed the difference between the two pieces of art, so I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at that. But that to me is my favorite one. It's atmospheric, but it gives you actually a little bit more than some of the more abstract ones, but it's just got such a feeling. And I was thinking about this because I actually think I have a greater affinity for that one than I even do for the first two. And I was trying to figure out why that was. And I think it's because the repetitive nature of that image actually lends itself more to the nostalgia factor. When you see that same image every single time over and over again, like that image gives me a very specific feeling from when I was a kid. And I actually don't even remember seeing the first two episodes. Like I don't remember those title cards from when I was a kid. I don't think I saw those till I was an adult. So I think I like them better. They're just, their design and artwork, but I don't love them as much as the mansion.
Cameron, how about you? Do you besides the first two, do any title cards stand out to you?
I really loved the pup named Scooby-Doo. I feel like those were great. And I also loved the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo because I love how Scooby's actually looking into the chest. I wish, and not to make it long, but I wish they would have done like each demon coming out of the chest for the title card. Like,
Cool.
wouldn't that have been cool, to think about? And also, too, you think about, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I mean, it would have been so cool to see a barnyard and see the creeper coming out. That would have been cool. Or Charlie the Haunted Robot, see a Ferris wheel in the back. Charlie. I mean, because there's so much you can do with them. So it's yeah. But to answer your question, I think a pup named Scooby-Doo and 13 Ghosts, I think they did it really well.
Wendy, how about you?
Okay, first, I just had a thought that all of Will's Scooby stuff would make perfect title card material. The illustrations that Will does work amazing as title cards for the episode. So Warner Brothers, if you're going to re-release Scooby-Doo Classic, call Will and use his artwork for the title cards. We are telling you right now, please. I do also kind of like A Pup Named Scooby-Doo is not one of my favorite series, but it does have a pretty neat looking title card. And I think this is related. I also really like from most of the series how they pair the title card with like a little jingle that is specific to the series. The Pup Named Scooby-Doo one, it's very like, it's catchy. you can think of it. I can't think of any other sound from that series other than the Cheese Monster song, because I mean, I'll be on my deathbed and that will be playing in my head on repeat for some reason. Like there's no getting it out once it's in there. But yeah, the little jingle, because I have to say that I have this very particular memory. When I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, Scooby stuff was extremely rare to find where I live. It's very rural. It's very in the north. There wasn't a lot of Scooby stuff being manufactured, as far as I was aware anyway, in like the mid 90s. It was kind of that hiatus period between A Pup Named Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island. So there was that kind of I feel like there was like a little bit of a lull with everything Scooby related. And my mom used to get the little Avon catalogs from a lady that lived up the road. And I cannot tell you how excited I was when one day I opened the Avon catalog and there was the VHS that has the Headless Horseman of Halloween on it. But the bonus episode on that is Vampire Bats and Scaredy Cats, which two super spooky. I mean, whoever paired those together, like bravo, those were the perfect pairing. But this VHS, I was over the moon. It was amazing. I venture to say that I've watched that VHS tape more than 65 times. Like that was like every single day that I was home for lunch, put on that VHS. I mean, I would be surprised if it even still works anymore. I watched it so many times. But I remember the sound of the Turner Broadcasting. It's like this, I don't know what, like at the title card for Turner, but it's like this mansion and like a shadow goes across it and then like a church bell tolls and then it settles and then it transitions into like this kind of quick spooky music, and they do previews of different VHS tapes that they've got coming out for Scooby and other Hanna-Barbera stuff. And then the intro plays and I can still, in my mind, I can see it. I can see the title card for Vampire Bats and Scaredy Cats. And then that sound, just like that little snippet of sound that is particular to those episodes. And that, if I was walking in the store and that just for some reason came on the radio, like I would stop and be like, oh, what's going on? That would make me very excited, the way that Christmas carols sometimes do when those randomly come on in the store. But I think that I love how the little jingle goes with the title card, and it just, like Will said, there's nostalgia there. You can't not feel it if you grew up with these things and you remember the visual and the sound plays, and it just takes you back to those moments when you were young that they were special. You know, things were different in your life. This is something that you were excited about. You really, really enjoyed it. And all these years later, it still creates that feeling of excitement, even just for me to think about it and imagine what it sounded like and what it looked like. So I think that people that are making shows today, they don't quite appreciate that sense of it from the viewer of, you know, it's not just a waste of money or a waste of your time. And yes, I'm sure that there are people that, you know, don't care to see it. I mean, I have to say the one thing that irks me whenever I'm watching Disney Plus is that little button pops up when you watch an episode right at the beginning. It's the skip intro. And the first thing I ever watched on Disney Plus was like the old DuckTales. I started watching the series again because I love that series, and that is hands down the best theme song ever. And that skip intro popped up and I was like, are you kidding? Like, in what universe am I gonna skip the DuckTales? Like, that's not happening ever. And if there are people on this earth skipping that intro, like, you need medical attention or mental help. Something's wrong with you. That is not, I don't want to skip the intro to Buffy. Okay. I want to watch it. I want to hear it. I want to see it. I want all of it. More is more. Don't take that away from me. So title cards are important. It gives us something, it grounds us to the show. It gives us these great memories more sometimes than anything else, because instant recognition, and instant recognition that leads to a memory that is more than likely going to be something good, because even if you were watching it when something bad was happening in your life, that thing itself, the Scooby show, was something positive for you that at least took you out of the negative headspace that you might have been in. So to anybody making shows now, do not underestimate what that one little thing at the beginning can do for, I'm going to say, the majority of viewers. I feel like today, because the minority in any circle of what people like or they don't like, the minority, they flap the loudest. So they're the ones that get heard, and then everyone thinks that they're the majority. But as we learned with Scrappy, that is not true. You are the minority, Nikki. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that more people than not do appreciate a title card. I'm sure, like Sophie said, when you watch like the newer episodes, you don't necessarily miss having them when they're not there. It's not like you're like, oh, this, what it's missing, I didn't see it, because you're used to it being like this for this particular one. Whereas if you watched an earlier one and somebody just cut it out, you would immediately recognize that something was missing. So we need the title cards. We need all the stuff, especially when it comes to children's programming. More is more, not less is less.
You know, that skip intro button, it does come in handy for a lot of things, but there's one show that I never use it on besides Scooby, and that is Psych. I never skip that intro. Every time I watch it, it is just like so much fun. And it could be the same thing that I just watched the entire season, but I love it.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
So our last topic is what could be done to make the title cards better. But also, I kind of want to get into like, what would your ideal title card look like? So, Will, let's start with you.
I was listening to some of the commentary about, do you want to give away the monster and everything in a title card? And I think, honestly, I do. Like, if you're going to have a title card, the best title cards are the ones that really, you don't have to give everything away, but have a hint of the mystery, get you a little bit excited, or show you something that's compelling. I mean, I'd love to see, I like having the sort of an establishing shot of the framework of the frame that's consistent, whether it's the mansion or something else. But I really like having something else that's customized for each one, whether it's the font someone was talking about earlier, or the actual images. And I definitely like the ones where they're doing more painted artwork, right? So lots of times the background artists in the old ones, so it's more like that painted background art style, as opposed to some of the other ones. Like the Puppet Named Scooby-Doo one's kind of funny because it's such an 80s thing. Like, it looks so period that it's kind of comical. And it doesn't do as much for me as the ones where you can really see that some of the background artists, who are usually just painting like a million trees and a million mountains and like winding roads and whatever, get to do something else. So in an ideal world, that's what I'd see in everything.
Sophie, what about you? What would your ideal title card look like?
I agree with Will. I think when you mentioned about Captain Cutler, you see that title card, it leaves more of an impression than the actual episode because of the depth and quality of the actual image. You see, you can tell the Black Knight and Captain Cutler in the same series. If they continue that throughout Where Are You, you'd tell it from the same series. But because the art styles are so similar, if it went into like, Scooby-Doo show and into the 70s, it would be more hard to depict what series from which. So yeah, it's a tough one. I do like the format of having, the same title card, but I do like the depths and like intricacy of the art, like Captain Cutler, because that is quite a cool title card.
Cameron, how about you? What would your ideal title card look like?
I think I would want a scene from the episode redrawn with the title in it, and I think it should have a member of the gang, like Daphne running from the creeper, or Velma trying to find her glasses and a villain standing over her. I think that would be cool to have an actual scene from the episode, and like I said, and do something different fonts. I love different fonts, because I feel like whether, it would be a Halloween episode, then you put the Halloween font, or a Christmas one, have like, make it look like, like candy canes. I don't know, but make it look like it, it's fun. But I feel like when you watch a scene, because like I said, all of y'all have kind of hit on it, that, when you do have the visuals of kind of the villains coming out, it's kind of like, it's going to tell about the episode, and it's going to have people intrigued, like, I gotta watch this episode, like, where's the scene at? I'm a person, when I see like a movie trailer and I see a scene, when I'm watching that movie and I see that scene, I'm like, oh, that's what was coming from the movie trailer. And I may be a weirdo about that, but I just how I put it together. Also too, kind of like what Wendy said, I love how they kind of put some of the music into it a little bit, you know what I mean? So like, and I go back to a pup named Scooby-Doo, but there were some soulful women that had sung the song for a pup named Scooby-Doo, and I feel like they have not, like, they're like, and they just go into it, and I'm like, oh yes, like, I love it. So I mean, I don't know, some soulful Black women are just getting it back in the 80s for a pup named Scooby-Doo, and whoever they are. But I feel like when you throw a little bit of song in there with just kind of that scene, man, I feel like you're just going to really grab people's attention. They want to watch that episode. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sing for you. I was just wanting to shed a little light on those women. But anyways, continue.
Wendy, what would your ideal title card be?
Oh, I'm having trouble concentrating now, because I'm imagining Cam singing along with all those soulful women in a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Just a long robe on, like, hit it, ladies, a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see, I think ideally we would have both something that is consistent per series, though. Like, I agree with Sophie. I wouldn't want all of the series to have the same type of title card, because I do like that you can immediately, without any thought or doubt, differentiate between what series is what just from the title card. But so I would love to see something stationary like a spooky mansion, but a scene that properly reflects like the vibe and the theme of the series as a whole. I don't really think that mansion scene that's in the Scooby-Doo show and the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy show would necessarily be the right imagery for Where Are You? It's too colorful. It's too something. It doesn't have that kind of toned down, muted, but scary kind of vibe that the original series had, especially for season 1. Like, again, I go back to that promo video where it's got that kind of sepia filter on it, and it's downright scary. It's amazing. It's almost Halloween. Go look it up. 1969 Scooby-Doo promo on YouTube. It's amazing. Best promo of anything ever, I think. So I think that the stationary image should be properly thought out based on what series you're illustrating. Make sure it suits the theme and the vibe. And then perhaps have like a little interior banner that would reflect something specific to the episode. So like Cam said, like a little farmyard with a cutout. There's your episode title. I like a standard font, simply because I feel like you run the risk, if you have too many different fonts, of them being hard to read when they get small. So that's the only thing that I would be like, because I love the idea of it, because when you do see those different fonts, especially around Halloween or Christmas, where they're very ornate, like they look amazing, but I would just be worried that it wouldn't translate well onto all of the things that I would want to put it on. So I would keep the font the same, but I would opt for maybe like a kind of a spookier font than just like the block letters that we get with that mansion one. But yeah, like a little interior border that shows something from the episode, be it a recognizable building, like the mansion in What the Hex is Going On, and somewhere in the picture have all of the gang. If it's a series, it's got all 5 of them just somewhere, but I wouldn't want them to be like in the foreground, something that was like really overpowering. I'd rather they be like a more of a background element, still definitely more noticeable than those 3 little silhouettes of poor Fred, Daphne, and Velma. You know, they're a little bit far away and they're just a silhouette. So I would like something a little bit more than that, but just somewhere that would be consistent and just like a pop of the villain or something that you will recognize when you start watching the episode to go over top of your generic background that properly reflects what the feel of the series is going to be or what you want it to be. For me, that would be like the absolute ideal kind of title card.
I had a few thoughts. My first one was to do them similar to What a Night for a Night, because I like that Scooby and Shaggy are in there. But I would also like to see the rest of the gang, or like you said, Wendy, whoever's in the episode, whether it's Scrappy, Flim Flam, Vincent Van Gogh. Another thought that I had was to do them more like a sketch, not actually colored in, but kind of a sketch. But then I thought maybe that would be better like at the end as the title card, you know, the end, in the end credits, maybe not so much for the actual title card. And then my third one, I can't remember at the moment. But I did have a thought on that. But at the moment, yeah, it's gone. So so does anybody have anything else that they would like to add about the episode title cards?
I have no more notes.
I mean, you mentioned for the title cards to be a sketch. I had the idea, I know it's more like CGI, but you know, the end of Scoob, you know, it was like more of like a watercolor wash, like at the end credits. Something not like, you know, finalized, like gives, you know, the symbolic and it reference what it is actually meant to be. Like that would look quite cool and artistic in some respect, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be neat.
I definitely think that you guys as artists can come up with designs that are even better than what, you know, the actual artists have done. And it's probably because you're true fans, so you know what you want to see, so you can put that on paper. Whereas, you know, they're doing what they're basically told to do. Here's the script. This is what we want you to draw. And you guys aren't bound to that. So you have the creative freedom to do whatever you want to do. I mean, I think a lot of you should be working for Warner Brothers or Disney or whoever. I mean, you guys are incredible.
Amen.
Thank you.
I think it helps when it's not your day job too. For those, I think about those artists, and because it is easy, like with the free time that I have, and you know, I have my other day job. This is like my escape. This is my hobby. I think if it was my job and I was sitting in one of those old Hanna-Barbera animation studios and I had like a stack of drawings to do, like something's got to give just to get through the day and hit the deadline. So I totally understand why that happens, but it is nice to be able to feel like you can do it justice because you have as much time as you want.
Yeah, the whole deadline thing, I'm sure, causes some issues as far as their creativity and what they can and can't do. Whereas if you don't have a deadline, you can put anything into it that you want. And
right.
Yeah.
Right. And it is a testament to them that given the fact that this was not their only job to do, they were most likely not just working on Scooby-Doo. They were likely working on, you know, 4, 5, 6, who knows how many other shows that are a completely different style, feel, like everything can be very different about them. And I think it is a testament to them that I don't think any of the title cards we've talked about tonight have been bad. They're all really, really great. You know, like, can we think of things that we would do differently or we would add to or whatever? Like, of course, but hindsight's 2020. We have had how many different series, how many different interpretations, how many different artists' work have we been able to sample? You know, like, what was your idea for the title card? And I've seen it, and yours and yours and yours over a 50-year period. You know, it definitely gives us like more than one leg up on being able to be more creative and just take the best of everything and put it together. So considering what else they were doing, like to think that they still nailed it, is I would say that they nailed all of them. You know, maybe some of those ones from Where Are You are just a little lackluster, but they're still pretty cool with the gang running and stuff, you know, and they did try a couple of times to tweak the font. And I had a question. I'm wondering if you guys will agree. So we were wondering why only some of the fonts got like a special treatment. And based on the ones that did, I'm wondering if it was simply a matter of which episodes they could think of a font they could use to illustrate what was going on that would be recognizable. Like, again, the tiki huts turned into letters. It's very, very, very high impact, and you know what it is. It gives that Hawaiian vibe immediately. It doesn't even matter what it says. It looks Hawaiian. And I was trying to think, like, what kind of a font would I use for Jeepers It's the Creeper?
Yeah. So I totally agree. I was thinking the exact same thing because I do write the villain's name in every one of my drawings. And sometimes it's super easy, it just comes naturally. And sometimes it's a struggle. And actually the creeper is a good example. Like I ended up having to, like I wrote it into a hay bale because they have hay bales in it. And that's something creative I thought I could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some themes that are definitely easier than others for sure. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I did think of the third idea that I had. And my idea was to use like some of the background art that's in the episode. So take a background art image and then use that as the background of the title card and put, you know, the villain and the gang or whoever it is in the episode on top of that. I think that would be cool because the background art really stands out. It wouldn't be where they would have to draw a whole new concept for a title card because they've already drawn the background art. So I think that would be cool.
I like that idea. Good call.
Yeah, that's a really great idea because I don't even know if people realize this until they see them all at the same time. But a few years ago, I wrote a blog post specifically about backgrounds in cartoons and stuff. And so I collected as many of the Scooby ones as I could find. And like, I can picture them right now, all in this grid in my post. And, you know, if you've seen the episode, you immediately know what background goes to which episode. Probably like 98% of the time. Like sometimes it's a bit more obscure, but that's only because of, you know, I was limited to what I could find online. It's a 22-minute episode. This is just one frame, you know, of one background. I'm sure that in all the episodes you could find some background image that would immediately take you where you are in that episode. Thinking make a beeline away from that feline. There's so many different backgrounds there that you would immediately recognize, you know, the cemetery or the cat creature statue or even York Towers, you know, downtown New York. You would know exactly what that was. So that's a really good idea. I think Nikki's idea might actually be the best one out of all of ours. Like that would be really good.
It would be less work for them. Because again, like they already have the background art done. It's just a matter of finding whatever pose to put the gang and the villain in. I think that would be cool. And I love the background art, so it would be another chance to see it.
Definitely.
Like you mentioned, Nikki, if you have like one of the background art and it's like a haunted house, you know, I'm shocked we haven't seen a title card where it's like the windows in the haunted house. You know what I mean? It kind of shows like the shade of like the monster and the Scooby and Shaggy running on the other window. Like that would be really cool to see. But I do agree with you though, to take a background, and that's brilliant, it really is, because you know, you take the background art, but you also kind of shade in where, you know what I mean, or just kind of throw the outline, you know what I mean? So you're not actually showing who it is, but show like the outline of the gang, or, you know, kind of like they did on the, you know, the Scooby-Doo show, how they showed like the, you know, it was Fred, Daphne, and Velma. You don't actually see them, but you see like the, you know, their kind of shape of them running in the background. So that, you know, that'd be cool to kind of throw that in there. I like that.
So if anybody wants to draw something like that, just so I can see what it would actually look like, I would not complain. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to talk about regarding the episode title cards? No. Okay, then we are going to wrap up this episode. So before we do, I would like you guys to let everyone know where they can find you on social media. And Wendy, we'll start with you.
You can come find me on Instagram. I'm at BRYDGE. My blog, wendylovesjesus.wordpress.com, or over on Twitter, where I guess I'm most active on Twitter, maybe Instagram, but Twitter is at wendylovesjesus.
Will?
You can see my drawings of Scooby-Doo villains at Davenport Will Draw on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Cameron?
You guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube using the @ScoobyNCam.
And Sophie?
By my Scooby account on Instagram at Scooby-Doo for Life, or my art account, which is SD for Life 9.
And I'm Nikki Blake. You can find all of my links on ScoobyAddicts.com. Thank you for joining us for another Scooby panel, and be sure to check out all of their art. Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
It was great.
Thank you for tuning in to another Scooby panel. I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com. If you like these panels, please subscribe to my channel for more great discussions. A very special thank you to artist and Scooby collector Sophie Locke, artist and Scooby fan Will Davenport, artist, blogger, and Scooby collector Wendy BRYDGE, and Cameron Bates from Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too. Scooby and Shaggy were voiced by Scott Innes. Check out Scott's website, onescottshop.com. Scooby Panel is available in podcast form on most podcast platforms, or as a web series on YouTube. If you would like to support the Scooby Panel, please go to support.scoobyAddicts.com. Scooby Addicts art by Will Davenport, video editing by Nikki Blake, music composed and performed by Bovine Nightmares. Please join us next time for our discussion on the Scooby-Doo Where Are You Now special.